welcome to today's session. My name is Gemma Margerison. I am the Resilience and Recovery Coach, and I'm joined by a special guest today, Justine Hodgkinson. Hi, Justine.
Hi there, Gemma.
How are you doing?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Very well. Justine, would you mind just starting off by telling us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Of course, yes. So my name is Justine Hodgkinson, and she's just introduced me very nicely. I'm the Chief Executive at a charity called Advocacy Focus. So we're a North West based charity. Our head office is in Accrington, and there are approximately 52 of us in the team, and the core service that we offer is independent advocacy. That's for people with mental health challenges, who lack capacity to consult, around medical treatment and change of accommodation, and we also work within the parameters of Care Act. We work with adults and we also work with young people. So we're a not-for-profit, and we're a team of key workers that are looking after the communities in which we're based.
Fantastic. So what is an advocate? What does advocacy mean?
So advocacy is basically, we quite often think about advocacy as a legal term, and we do work within the parameters of legislation when we're working with people. But actually advocacy is about being able to speak up for yourself, being heard, being listened to. And we are very much in the health and social care sector. So it's all about getting the best possible health and social outcomes for you as an individual. And we all know what it's like. We all know what that red tape can be like. I apologise for the lights, it's not ideal. Sorry, Gemma. We know what it's like. We've got red tape, we've got health and social care issues, and a lot of people that we work with are feeling very unwell. They're feeling quite blindsided by their situation. So what an advocate does is they work purely and simply for that individual. So they put them front and centre to that process. They don't do anything with them that they're not actually asked for. So it's all issue based, and it's all, if they want to work with us to come up with a solution about the life they want to live, then we support them to make that happen. A key premise in all of that is that it's very much an assets-based approach. So we focus on what the person can do and how the person can represent themselves, so that they're not disempowered, so that we're giving them that sort of, we're cheering them on from the sidelines, if you like, and making sure that they know what their legal rights are, so that they can get the best possible outcomes.
Fantastic. Would you mind kind of giving us a couple of examples of some of the work that you do, some of the things that you help with?
Absolutely. So, for example, we may be working with an individual in a care home. So the person in a care home may be what we call deprived of their liberty. So they may be under constant control and supervision in that care home. So behind a coded door, for example. And that person may be objecting to their placement. And when I say they're objecting to that placement, that doesn't mean they're saying quite coherently, I object to this placement. They could actually just be stood at the door with a suitcase and their coat on, but they lack the capacity to put it into words what it is they want. So our advocate would very much attain their views as much as they possibly could, observe that body language, observe their behaviours, and speak to anyone that's closest to them about the kind of behaviours they're displaying, look at their notes in the care home to see if it's a regular occurrence, if it is that they actually really don't want to be there. Because if you can imagine that situation, it's desperate, where there's a person who's in a care home and all they want to do is go home. And they've no one to sort of verbalise that for them or to support them to do that. So that's where our advocates can come in. So they are what they take on the role of a paid relevant person's representative. So it's their role to go and visit them in the care home, check that they're okay, and if they're not, help them get the outcome that they're hoping for. It doesn't always work, obviously. There's lots of different situations, different things that are also happening in that person's life, be that a treatment plan or whatever it is. But what we try and do is try and navigate them through that process and get the best possible outcome. So that's one example there. Another example is we also have contracts for young people. So lots of young people are looked after by the local authority. Mm-hmm. So it might be for a child protection matter. It might be that they're at a foster placement and they're not happy there. So there's lots of ways in which we advocate for these young people. And what we also do as well as a service is we have independent visitors. So we as an organisation are paid to be in the young person's life, if that makes sense. We have a paid role and we're professionals, but we have a service of independent visitors, and they are not paid to be in that young person's life. They can volunteer to be almost like a mentor and a role model for these young people. So there's lots of ways in which we support and advocate for both young people and for adults too.
Wow. So how did you get involved in a role like that?
Well, I'd like to come out with something grand and say, oh, it was fate, it was destiny. It was actually, it was none of those things. It was very much my personal circumstances changed, so I was looking for an alternative role. And the role I was in was a national role, and I was doing lots of travel, and that wasn't possible anymore. So this role came up, and actually where I am now is literally 10 minutes away from my house. So from commuting to London every week to a 10-minute drive down the road was wonderful. And I was very interested in what advocacy was, because I'll be honest with you, 7 years ago, I had absolutely no idea. And I think that's why my interest was so piqued, because I was kind of thinking, well, what even is advocacy? And I did some research, and what came through loud and clear to me, Gemma, was that actually I really could have done with an advocate when my mum became unwell. Yeah. My mum is living in a care home currently, and she's non-communicative, non-verbal. She literally eats and sleeps, been very unwell for many years. And I think if I'd have known what advocacy was back then, I would have been able to access a fantastic level of support and care for my mum. And that is why I loved it so much once I'd investigated. And for me, what better way to give back to the community you live in, but actually to work within that community and to offer that level of support for the people, your neighbours, your friends, your family. So I was kind of from day one then, when I did sort of research it, I thought, yeah, it's the role for me. And 7 years later, I'm still here.
Fantastic. How has the work that you do been impacted over the last 12 months with COVID?
I do apologise for the lights. It's not great, is it? I didn't think that one through at all. Significantly, I think is the word I would use. We were in really, really good shape before the pandemic happened, in terms of our culture, in terms of our organisational approach to things, in terms of our staff team. But we've all gone through this collective, huge change management process, where we've gone through lots of different stages. And I think what I've observed is a collective grief. And I'm not talking about necessarily people who've lost loved ones, although we have had that here. We've had members of our team who have lost people that they love. But it's this grief for the life they had, for the things they did, for the banal normality of life that people are grieving. So we had to very, very quickly go from being very much office-based and attending meetings. We had to very much, within a week, shift our whole operation into agile working.
Yeah.
Fortunately, we did it very successfully. But what you don't account for at that stage is people become very attached to the way they work, the situations they're in, their own little knickknacks on their desk, those conversations at the printer or when you're making a brew. So of course, one of the things we did right at the start, and we've continued to do it and still are, is our role shifted to much more one of focusing on mental health and well-being, and making sure that our people were absolutely, flapping my arm again, absolutely looked after in terms of their mental health, because for all those people that loved working from home and in a much more flexible way, there were 2 or 3 that really didn't, and there was a huge period of adjustment to consider.
Yeah. So what kind of things did you put in place, or what kind of things do you feel are important to help support mental well-being?
Well, straight away, we started, one of the things that we did as a senior leadership team was we did temperature checks. We checked in with people, we sent emails to sort of almost, if you like, how are you doing? I'm not doing great, nobody is, that kind of acknowledging this shared situation. We also looked at things like Star of the Week, so and peer nominated awards in that way. We introduced a team huddle. So we have team meetings every quarter, but this was about a very informal team huddle. And as part of that, there's always a health and well-being aspect. So we were looking at things around, it could be anything from mindfulness to practicing gratitude to just talking to people about stress management. So there was this big focus around that. Much more flexible. We kind of said to people, you're actually showing up for work, well done, pat yourselves on the back. Very much, we know this is not our normal way of working. So the language that we used was a real shift from focusing on productivity and that let's get the service delivered. It was very much we acknowledged that they were people first and foremost, and they were living through the same situation everybody else was. We also reminded people, we're very fortunate here in the fact that we've committed to an employee assistance program, so we were reminding people on a regular basis that there was access to that, and they could also access it as a family. So it wasn't just a case of dealing with the immediate person in front of you. There was that holistic approach. So we very much did flip the focus from, if you like, the day job to really focusing in on our people, because I don't have to tell anybody, well, possibly I do, but people are your most important asset. Not only are they wonderfully diverse and eclectic, and they have all these wonderful unique ways of working, but they actually they are the people that are pushing your organization forward, and if you don't look after them, you won't have an organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that, around kind of people are your most important asset. I think that's fantastic. How can people be advocates in a day-to-day setting? I think is my next question. So you've talked about kind of advocating for your staff, I guess, from a mental health perspective with everything that's going on, but do you think people can kind of take on that role a little bit more?
Yes, absolutely. Interesting, on our website we have some resources. So we've got a range of resources that are called Healthy Self. So we focus on things like self-care, looking after your mental health and well-being, dealing with stress. So I've been saying this to the team for the last 12 months. You have to put your own oxygen mask on first. That is a given. You know, if you're not looking after yourself, and to use another phrase that, because according to my niece, I've got phrases for every occurrence, but you can't drink for an empty cup. You know, so if you're focusing and spending all your energy on everybody else, you've got nothing left to draw from. So self-care is essential, and that can be anything from a walk outside, listening to the birds. It could be colouring in. It could be a 5-minute yoga session. It could just be reading a book. So we've really sort of driven home the self-care aspect to our team. But in terms of supporting and advocating for yourself and for others, we do have resources on the website. So say, for example, someone had a health complaint, so they weren't happy with the health treatment or the service they received. On our website, we have information around how to make your own health plans, for example. So we're very much of the opinion that a lot of people have the skills in order to do this. They might need us to take them over the line if it becomes a statutory case. But ultimately, we are firm believers in self-advocacy first. So it might be that someone has caring responsibilities, or they have an older family member, a parent, and they can support them and advocate for them. And sometimes it's a simple case of a few skills, and we do have on our website a self-advocacy toolkit as well. So people can go through that and equip themselves with the skills they need to navigate the health and social care sector.
Fantastic. And if people are interested in doing this a little bit more, in kind of being advocates a little bit more kind of officially, I guess, how could people get involved or support the work that you're doing?
The most powerful way of doing that, and the most direct way of doing that, is to come and volunteer for us. So we could not operate without the incredible generosity of our volunteers. So they'll come, they might, you know, a lot of our volunteers are doing, as I said earlier, the independent visitor role. They are doing ward drop-ins. They had to be suspended for a time because of COVID, but we're getting back into doing ward visits. They're getting back to doing second visits with advocates. So we can very much offer a really interesting volunteer route. And then what happens then is what we've discovered through people volunteering with us is that it's not for everyone, advocacy. It really isn't. It's a challenging role. It's also wonderfully rewarding, but you know, not everybody takes to it because it is very much delivery, you know, supporting the person to get the outcomes they want. You know, it's not about advice. It's not about what we want. It's about what the person wants. So, but we have, from our volunteering team, we've taken on many paid employees that have then decided that they want to take on a role of being an advocate and have been successful and secured employment with us. It's not just about advocacy though, as well. We have volunteer roles within operations. So we have a really good marketing presence because that's our shop window. We want people to know what advocacy is. So we demystify what advocacy is and push things out over social media so that people can see if advocacy is for them, if it isn't. You know, we'll have people doing marketing, volunteering, and we are desperate for fundraising volunteers. So anybody that gets involved with Advocacy Focus will receive the training and the opportunities, and then should it be something that they want to do in a paid capacity, they're beautifully placed for when the job opportunities come available. Yeah.
So how does somebody get in touch with you then?
Okay, so we have a website which is advocacyfocus.org.uk. So we have a great website. You can refer into the service there, but you can also get all the contact information. You can contact our volunteer managers through that. And we have a low-cost local number where people can also dial in and speak to our wonderful advocacy coordinator team, who will signpost the person onto the person they need to speak to.
Brilliant. Justine, thank you so much. It's been absolutely wonderful to have you. Please please subscribe. If you've got any questions or would like to know more, please do contact us, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.